Surviving the Great Depression and World War II were nothing in comparison to watching the love of your life lose her battle with a disease that we still to this day have no cure for. My grandfather, William Bernard Tracy, endured all of these things in his lifetime, making him a true warrior in my eyes, and which is why I will be discussing his childhood upbringing in one of New York City's 5 boroughs, his first-hand experience with the Japanese-American internment camps during World War II, and his role in his wife's battle with cancer. First, I will discuss my grandfather's upbringing in Riverdale, New York. He was the best Christmas present my great-grandparents could have ever received, being born at home on Christmas Day in 1913. He was the only boy in the first graduating class of St. Margaret's Parish School, which is under the authority of the Roman Catholic Church and was attended by not only him, but also my mother and her 7 siblings. This Catholic upbringing, still to this day, plays a part in some of the family's religious beliefs. Up until the Great Depression, my grandfather worked in a candy shop owned by my great-grandfather, and this is where he met his childhood sweetheart, my grandmother, Ruth Elizabeth Dugan. During the Great Depression, my grandparents witnessed starving families being forced to live on the cold New York streets and scrounged through the dirty garbages in hopes of finding edible food. These images would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Not only was my grandfather scarred with images left by the Great Depression, he was also left with images of the racism displayed by America during World War II. He enlisted in the Army in 1940 and was stationed in New Jersey until 1942, when he was relocated to Manzanar, California, and forced to guard innocent Americans of Japanese descent in the camp set up after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. My grandfather never spoke about his time in California, but one can assume that he did not enjoy it or his duties because he did not enlist in the Army after. None of these experiences pained my grandfather as much as the death of my grandmother on his birthday. In 1964, my grandmother was diagnosed with breast cancer and told she had maybe 2 years to live. The news was devastating to her and my grandfather, but that didn't stop them from waging their own war on the cancer. Not much was known about cancer in the 1960s, except that it was a very smart and deadly disease. When you had a mastectomy, there is no such thing as reconstructive surgery, and as a result, my grandfather watched my grandma lose one of her breasts and a lot of her dignity. She was forced to buy bras with false boobs in them, and when she took it off, her chest looked nothing like it had before. The boob that was left was indented and extremely awkward looking, making her very self-conscious. My mother remembers my grandfather always trying to make her see how beautiful she really was, regardless of her chest, and how his undying love for her was seen by everyone who knew them. Thankfully, the doctors were wrong in their diagnosis, and my grandfather was able to spend 19 more years with her before the cancer finally won the war. During those 19 years, he did all he could to help his wife, such as leaving his job as an accountant in Riverdale and moving to California in hopes that the nice weather would help my grandmother's battle. He never gave up until her death, which ironically and sadly was on his birthday in 1983. My grandfather may have been born in a completely different time than myself, but his experiences heavily mirror some of my own. The Great Recession may not be anywhere near as drastic as the Great Depression, but it has had its own negative effects on my life, and it also brings a big uncertainty on my own future. The attacks on 9/11 will be taught to my children just as Pearl Harbor was taught to me. We both lost loved ones to cancer. He lost his wife, I lost my father and my brother. It just goes to show that as much as the world has changed, it really hasn't changed at all, and we might not be as different from one another as we think.